5:17 a.m., the Strait of Hormuz, USS Fitzgerald, transiting eastbound toward the Gulf of Oman. 19 Iranian armed drones just crossed the maritime boundary at low altitude. They were flying in 3 separate groups, 3 different altitudes, 3 different bearings. The ship's radar had been tracking them for 6 minutes before anyone realized they weren't commercial aircraft. Welcome to Navy Beacon, where we break down the operations that define sea power. The drones were Shahed-149s, not the Shahed-136 loitering munition that had become familiar from conflicts in other theaters. The 149 is a different category of weapon entirely. Larger, heavier, capable of carrying a 500-kilogram precision-guided bomb under its fuselage, or a mix of smaller munitions. Its range exceeds 2,000 kilometers. It is closer to a medium-altitude strike drone, a weapons platform, than a kamikaze munition. Iran had been developing the Shahed-149 for years. Western intelligence had documented its existence and assessed its capabilities. But its operational deployment in a maritime strike role against a U.S. Navy vessel had not been assessed as an immediate threat in the standing Fifth Fleet intelligence picture. That assessment was wrong. The 19 drones had launched from 2 separate airfields in southern Iran between 3:40 a.m. and 4:10 a.m. A staggered departure schedule designed to have all 19 arrive in the Strait of Hormuz within a 90-second window of each other, approaching from 3 different vectors. The flight profiles had been calculated carefully. 2 groups flew at 8,000 feet, well within commercial aviation altitude bands. 1 group flew at 1,200 feet, low enough to potentially be masked by surface clutter in the Strait's complex radar environment. The low-altitude group was the one the radar system struggled with. USS Fitzgerald's AN/SPY-1D radar had been tracking the high-altitude contacts since 4:41 a.m. They appeared on the radar picture as slow-moving aircraft, consistent with commercial turboprop cargo planes using the Strait's air corridors. 19 contacts over a 30-minute window in the Strait of Hormuz was not unusual. The Strait is one of the world's busiest aviation corridors. The contacts were squawking. Not the right identification codes, but the transponder signals being emitted were consistent with civilian aircraft codes that matched known regional flight patterns. The IRGC had equipped the drones with commercially available transponders set to mimic active civilian flight codes. The tactic worked for 4 minutes and 26 seconds. That is how long it took Fitzgerald's identification team to run a cross-check against the actual commercial flight schedule for the Strait at 4:41 a.m. and realized that none of the 19 contacts corresponded to a filed flight plan. 4 minutes and 26 seconds of the drones flying toward the ship while classified as commercial aircraft. At 4:45:36 a.m., the contacts were reclassified as unknowns. At 4:46 and 2 seconds a.m., the low-altitude group, previously not tracked because of the surface clutter masking, appeared on the radar picture at 14 nautical miles, bearing 035. 26 seconds between reclassification and the appearance of a third threat group. General quarters at 4:46:19 a.m. The drones were now between 16 and 18 nautical miles away, converging. At drone cruise speed, approximately 350 kilometers per hour for the Shahed-149. Time to the ship's position was just under 5 minutes. 5 minutes is not a long time, but it was enough. Barely. USS Fitzgerald's commanding officer, Captain James Okonkwo, had his air defense picture in front of him within 90 seconds of general quarters being called. 19 contacts, 3 groups, converging on his ship from different bearings. The 2 high-altitude groups were within range of his SM-2 standard missiles. The SM-2, flying at Mach 3.5, could reach those contacts with enough time margin for multiple shots per target if needed. The low-altitude group was a different problem. At 1,200 feet and 14 nautical miles, the low-altitude group was inside the SM-2's effective engagement window, but at the edge of the phalanx's useful range. The ESSM, Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, was the right weapon. Faster to task than SM-2, optimized for lower-altitude threats. But there were 19 targets. Fitzgerald's ESSM quad packs gave her 32 ready missiles. SM-2 cells added another 24 engagement rounds for air defense. That was a total of 56 potential intercepts against 19 targets. On paper, the numbers worked. In reality, they didn't. Because not every missile hits, the engagement sequence takes time, and the ship cannot fire all her missiles simultaneously. The fire control system can track and engage multiple targets, but it has a maximum simultaneous engagement rate. Exceed that rate, and targets slipped through the queue. Captain Okonkwo made his request at 4:47 a.m. Air support needed immediately. Two FA-18F Super Hornets, Voodoo 31 and Voodoo 32, from USS Abraham Lincoln, were airborne 140 miles to the south, flying a combat air patrol mission. They were vectored immediately. Flight time at full military power, 9 minutes. The first drones would reach USS Fitzgerald in less than 4. The first SM-2 launched at 4:47:44 a.m. against the lead contact in the northern high-altitude group. The missile climbed, turned, and impacted the drone at 11.3 nautical miles. The Shahed-149, unlike the kamikaze Shahed-136, does not explode on radar impact. The SM-2's proximity fuse detonated the warhead close to the drone, and the fragmentation pattern tore through the drone's airframe. It came apart. The 500-kilogram bomb it had been carrying impacted the Gulf 9 nautical miles from Fitzgerald, detonating in a geyser of water visible from the ship's bridge. A 500-kilogram bomb in the water, 9 miles away. That was the first target. There were 18 more. The SM-2 engagement continued rapidly. 2, 3, 4 contacts destroyed in succession as the fire control system worked through the northern group. 5 confirmed kills in 90 seconds against the high-altitude contacts. The southern high-altitude group was more spread out. The individual drones had separated to 2-mile intervals, complicating the engagement sequence. The fire control system was managing 14 active tracks simultaneously, while the weapons release queue processed engagements at maximum rate. 2 drones from the southern group slipped below the current engagement threshold, not because the radar lost them, but because the fire control queue had too many higher priority targets ahead of them. At 4:50:11 a.m., the low-altitude group crossed inside 5 nautical miles. The ESSM engagement began. The phalanx systems, forward and aft mounts, came active simultaneously. Against the low-altitude Shahed-149 at 1,200 feet altitude, the phalanx geometry was workable. The contacts were not sea-skimming cruise missiles with a 1-second engagement window. They were at 1,200 feet, flying at 350 kilometers per hour, slow enough for the phalanx to track and engage at close range with reasonable probability. 3 ESSM launches against the 6-drone low-altitude group in rapid succession. 2 hits, 1 miss. 4 drones remaining in the low-altitude group, now inside 3 nautical miles. The phalanx engaged the 2 closest contacts. The 20mm Gatling cannon at 4,500 rounds per minute against a drone flying at 350 kilometers per hour at 1,200 feet altitude is a manageable shot, as long as the geometry is clean. 1 drone destroyed at 2.1 nautical miles. 1 drone destroyed at 1.7 nautical miles. 2 drones remaining in the low-altitude group, inside 1.5 nautical miles. At 4:51:07 a.m., the phalanx on the forward mount engaged the nearer of the 2. Miss. The drones approached geometry, coming in from a slight bow angle, placed it at the edge of the phalanx's effective engagement arc for that mount. The aft mount did not have an angle on this contact. The forward drone came across the ship's bow at 800 meters altitude. It did not hit the ship. The bomb it was carrying released at 600 meters altitude, 1.1 nautical miles from USS Fitzgerald. A 500-kilogram bomb released from 600 meters altitude in an unguided drop will travel approximately 1.4 nautical miles before impact, depending on release speed and altitude. The bomb impacted the Gulf 260 meters off USS Fitzgerald's port bow. The water column was 30 meters high. The blast wave hit the ship's bow hard enough to crack a forward equipment room porthole and throw the forward watch team off their feet. No penetration, no casualties from the blast, but a 500-kilogram bomb had been released by an Iranian drone and had impacted 260 meters from a U.S. Navy destroyer. Here was the decision point. The second low-altitude drone was now inside 1 nautical mile, still on its attack run. Its bomb had not released. The phalanx aft mount had an angle. The fire control system was locked. But the 2 drones from the southern high-altitude group that had slipped the engagement queue were now at 3 nautical miles, altitude 7,000 feet, and the fire control system was prioritizing the closer, lower threat. Captain Okonkwo had a second decision to make in the next 15 seconds. Let the phalanx handle the close drone and accept that the 2 higher altitude contacts might require the SM-2Q to cycle back to them, losing precious seconds. Or pull another SM-2 off the high altitude group now, redirect it at the closest low altitude drone, and free the phalanx to begin tracking the higher contacts. Option A, trust the phalanx on the close contact and cycle the SM-2S back to the high contacts. Option B, commit an SM-2 against the closed drone and simultaneously reposition phalanx for the high-altitude threats. What would you do? Drop A or B in the comments. Captain Okonkwo chose option A. The phalanx aft mount destroyed the second low-altitude drone at 0.7 nautical miles. No bomb release. The drone impacted the Gulf in burning pieces 400 meters from the ship's stern. The SM-2Q cycled. Both remaining high-altitude contacts were engaged within 40 seconds. One was destroyed cleanly. The second, the last surviving drone of the original 19, was hit by the SM-2 fragmentation and damaged but not destroyed. It continued flying on a degraded heading, losing altitude, and impacted the Gulf 4.2 nautical miles from the ship. Its bomb did not release. The warhead detonated on water impact. Voodoo 31 and Voodoo 32 arrived over the Strait of Hormuz at 5 a.m. The engagement was over. They swept the area, confirmed no remaining airborne contacts, and orbited USS Fitzgerald for 40 minutes before returning to Lincoln. 19 drones launched, 18 destroyed by USS Fitzgerald's layered defense. One bomb released, impacting 260 meters off the bow. 0 personnel casualties. The after-action report described the engagement as a successful multi-layered air defense action. It was accurate. It did not fully capture how close the margins had been. The drone that released its bomb had been inside phalanx engagement range. The aft mount had not had the geometry. The forward mount had fired and missed. The bomb had fallen. 260 meters is a very specific number. It is the difference between a training film about successful air defense and a very different kind of debrief. The after-action review made 4 primary recommendations. First, the transponder spoofing tactic used by the Iranian drones needed to be addressed at the identification system level. The current process, cross-referencing radar contacts against commercial flight schedules, had a 4-minute gap. That gap needed to close to under 60 seconds. The solution was a software integration update to the AN/SPY-1D's identification friend or foe processing that compared radar contact parameters against filed flight plans in near real time. The update was deployed to the fleet within 3 months. Second, the ESSM load on Gulf patrol destroyers needed to increase. Against a 19-drone strike, the current mix of SM-2 and ESSM left the engagement system operating near its ceiling. Adding 2 additional ESSM quad packs per Gulf patrol would provide meaningful margin. Third, combat air patrol coverage of Strait of Hormuz transits should include at least 1 FA-18 section within 5 minutes of the ship, not 9. 4 minutes of drone flight time versus 9 minutes of fighter response time created a gap that Fitzgerald had survived through the performance of its own weapon systems. A second gap, if the systems had been slightly less effective, would have required the fighters to close it. They had been 9 minutes away. Fourth, and most significant, the Shahed-149's operational debut in a maritime strike role against a U.S. warship had validated Iranian development of a medium-altitude precision strike drone capability that Fifth Fleet's threat models had assessed as developmental, not operational. It was operational, and 19 of them had just been launched from Iranian airfields in a coordinated multi-vector spoofed identification attack against a U.S. destroyer in the Strait of Hormuz. The question the review could not answer from available intelligence was how many Shahed-149s Iran had in operational inventory. The production facility had been assessed as capable of producing between 40 and 60 airframes per month. 19 had been used in this attack. The facility had not been struck. Stay vigilant, stay informed. This is Navy Beacon, and we'll see you in the next one.